Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Trend Report podcast. I'm glad you're with us today for this episode. It's our second episode in January 2021. I'm excited to welcome our guest today as we're going to talk about a lot of fun things, including what it's like to grow a family-owned small business in what's going on in the world today. So I'd like to welcome Jeff and Jennifer with DARRAN to our podcast. How are you guys?
Hi, Sid.
Doing good, Sid. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks. And I'm really excited you guys are here with us today. So before we get started, Jennifer and Jeff, why don't you guys introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do at DARRAN, and then tell us a little bit about DARRAN.
Okay. I'm the president of DARRAN Furniture and run basically the manufacturing and the office.
Okay. So you're the inside of the house.
I'm the inside of the house.
All right, Jeff, what about you?
Oh, well, I guess I'm the outside of the house. I'm vice president of sales, so I run the sales side of the company, also help out with some of the marketing pieces. Obviously, being part of the second generation growing up, I guess I was referred to as the SOB, which was son of boss for a while, and now I'm the BOB, the brother of the boss.
That's great. I absolutely love that. The SOB and now the BOB. So from the sob to the bob.
Absolutely.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about DARRAN for our listeners who maybe don't know who you are and what you do and where you're located.
Jen, you want me to start? Okay, I can go ahead and go. We, DARRAN was founded in 1977 here in High Point, North Carolina, by two guys, Daryl Stout, Randy Hollingsworth. That's where the DAR and the RAN comes from. So it was started as a partnership. I think it was 12 people or 15 people, 12,000 square foot. It's kind of where it began, and those two guys kind of really worked together running the business up until about the mid '90s, and then the Hollingsworths bought out the Stouts, and then it's really kind of been us ever since.
And so, what exactly do you guys make? What do you do? Go ahead.
Our niche started as wood case goods, basically. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how we got our start. Our dad, he had worked for some contract seating manufacturers. And so where there was really in seating, there was a ton of customization that could be done, various options, things like that. But when it came to wood case goods, there wasn't any. A desk was a desk. And basically you couldn't change the pull, you couldn't change the edge. There wasn't many options. So kind of that's what I guess poised him to start DARRAN. And that's kind of how we got our niche as a custom, doing customization and offering a ton of options to customers.
Okay. So how has the product line evolved? Because, when I think about case goods and, as being someone that worked at a dealership and sold your products when I was at a dealership, and we won't talk about how many years ago that was. When I hear you guys talk about that, the first thing that I think of is, in the South, what we think of as traditional case goods, right? Very stately and the picture frame moldings and, the brass drawer pulls and all that. So how have you guys evolved from making those types of case goods to where you are today?
Well, believe it or not, we still have some of that stuff. We just have it tucked away in a corner and don't really advertise it, but it's still there.
It's not in the museum. It's not in the museum somewhere.
It should be. It should be, but believe it or not, people still, the federal government still buys that. Financial institutions, lawyers. I mean, it's still there, but kind of like what you said, we had to evolve the company. We had to evolve the product line. I mean, that kind of version of furniture was our dad's version. It's what the company was kind of founded doing. I mean, at one point we had an entire plant that ran traditional furniture. That's all it ran. It was actually our biggest one. And we had to kind of, I guess, as Jen and I got in it, and the older we got and the more we worked in it, we had to kind of start to change the image of the company, the brand, the furniture, the different solutions. We had to be more of our version, our vision, the direction we wanted it to go. So we kind of went from doing a lot of designs in-house, which a lot of case goods you can kind of get away with that, to strictly focusing on outside designers who really kind of, sometimes you don't see the forest for the trees if you're buried in it. And by partnering up with these outside designers that are going to Europe that are researching what's out there and taking a look at it and really kind of partnering up with them is what helped us to kind of really change this company to be the direction we wanted it to go.
So that's great. I mean, second generation, anytime that you have a family business and it transitions to the second, third, or sometimes even the fourth generation, it's not always easy. So congratulations to the both of you to, being a second generation manufacturer in our industry. How long ago did the two of you step into the leadership roles of the company?
2009 was when I took over. It was late 2008, 2009.
Okay.
It's the perfect time of the falling economy.
Yeah, at the time, 2009, not necessarily the best time to take over a company, right?
No.
So Jennifer, when you think about taking the business over, I mean, it's been 11 years now, you've taken the business over. What would you say are 2 or 3 of like the biggest milestones that you've been able to accomplish in the business since then?
Well, from, I guess, a product kind of marketing aspect, we went from strictly doing wood case goods to doing seating products. That was, I guess, right at 2009. We introduced our first line of wood guest chairs, which seemed to be, a very, I guess, no-brainer
Sure.
to offer that. But in the past, we had previously partnered our furniture or paired our furniture with Patrician, which Daryl Stout, had started Patrician. So anyways, after that company was purchased, we decided to launch it ourselves. So we started with wood guest seating and then went into executive seating and lounge seating.
Okay.
Another one. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so product additions, in this case, seating product additions to historically a case good only company was a huge milestone. What was the second one?
Also with our basically going into a lower cost case good line. Our we tended to be kind of mid to high end. And with, some economic downturns, we would always be pretty drastically affected.
Yeah.
So we went into a kind of more mid-market as well as laminate line.
So you had always done veneer and then customization of that. And so then when did you get into the laminate world and the lower cost world?
Laminate was, I think, right around 2010.
Okay.
Jeff, is that right?
So that was shortly after you guys took over then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Jeff, what would you say are some milestones that have really impacted the growth of the business?
Well, I mean, obviously those are some big ones because it just gave us different arenas to go into within this market. It gave me more weapons to use out in the sales world. Probably another one, at least for me, was just our big change in direction, kind of like what I was referring to before, which really began in like 2017. A long time ago, I'd been given advice and to travel over to Europe and go to the contract furniture shows over there to get an idea of designs and styles and trends and things that would be popular here in the United States. And of course, at the time I was working in purchasing, I think, here at DARRAN, no, not yet. I was actually getting ready to graduate college and had done some interviews with some people around. One of them included Danny Davis, and I talked to him a little bit. And it was a suggestion that he'd given me. Of course, at the time, I mentioned that to my dad, and he was just like, "No, you don't need to go over there. It's too big of a gap, years between that." So finally, we did, and got over there, and met some companies, started some partnerships over there to license some designs to bring back over here. Really started partnering up with just European designers in general, and that was around 2017, and we practically changed the brand or image of the company overnight, and went to being definitely having something that caught the eyes of the A&D community. So it helped us to get more specifications and things like that. I mean, that was really kind of a big change. We got rid of our binders. We went straight to a lookbook. Marketing department here did a wonderful job, kind of, again, upping that image. I mean, because that's what we were trying to do is figure out how to bring high design to the more mid-market, upper mid-market segment of our business. Because typically, if you want those European designs, I mean, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to wait, sometimes 16 weeks to get something that you want. And it was our goal to try to bring that to the upper mid-market where more people could afford it. So,
And I think that's
I
fantastic.
think that was a pretty big milestone.
Well, but I think that's fantastic, Jeff, because what you just said, I think, is spot on for customers that want a high design, or historically customers that wanted a high design or European design. They had to pay way more than what they should be paying for it. And those designs, I think, have always been available here, but now today, especially, they're much more prevalent in what you see happening in the workplace and the products that you see being put into the workplace. And so bringing and making those accessible and affordable to a segment of the market where it hadn't been affordable before, I think is a great business strategy. So congrats to you guys for adapting that and going over there. So I can only imagine why your dad didn't want you to go right after you were graduating from college, Jeff, but we could probably talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, that'd be another story. I think he did. I think he took one look at me and was just like, yeah, no.
Not right now. So during our prep call, we talked a little bit about manufacturing in North Carolina and what it's like. So, I mean, obviously your family's there and that's where they started the business, and which is, why you're there today. So I'm curious, why have you stayed in North Carolina, and what are the benefits to being in a Southern state manufacturing? Because you're in the deep South, let's be clear.
We are very fortunate to be in the area where we are. I mean, High Point has been known for residential furniture, in the past. Used to be residential furniture manufacturing. That changed, as some businesses went overseas to China, but the producers and suppliers of those manufacturers have remained. So we have a wealth of resources, of different, from metalworking to veneers, plywood, you name it. We've got it very close by. We've got one that we can just walk up. It's like a 2-minute walk right up the street for frames.
Oh, that's great.
It's just, we're very fortunate where we're located. And I think Jeff can talk a little bit to that as well. Some stories that he has when he was in purchasing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and you also have to remember when the company was founded, back when Dad started in 1977, Alma was king. That was the largest case good producer, in the world practically, and it was located right here in High Point, North Carolina. So you did have some contract furniture being made here. You did have a lot of resources, but of course they were back in that old philosophy of one head shape, one pull, one color. Here's what you get. We'll sell it by the, train container load. Yeah. But, so we did have there. We did have some good suppliers here. But I mean, we have focused on, and it's another is also relationships. I mean, that's part of it here. I mean, after I got out of college, I went into purchasing. So I've known some of these people for the last, 20 years, 22 years. And they, and some of them are second generation family companies as well, too. One of our big metal suppliers. I mean, I went to college with them, second generation, our frame guys, second generation, veneer guys, third generation. So, you develop these relationships, and it's kind of funny. Our veneer supplier, he tells a pretty funny story sometimes when sometimes we'll take tour groups over there, and he basically, somebody asked him one time, they're like, well, how's, Darran, they're getting this really nice grade of veneer and et cetera. And it was like, how talking about the advantage that he gives us. And he basically said, well, he said, the problem is, he said, Jeff's mad. If I screw something up, he said, Jeff's still mad when he gets here, because he's right down the road. He was like, the guys up in Indiana or the guys elsewhere, he said, by the time they get here, they've already cooled off. But he said, Jeff's just 5 minutes down the road. He's still mad when he gets here. And it's kind of a pretty funny story. And it's kind of that, having the people close, the relationships, the quality control aspect. I mean, we can go look at our metal components being run. We can go visit, the local flame shop right up the road. We can go see veneer, the quality of the veneer before we get it. I mean, it's just having that kind of aspect of everybody close. I mean, it cuts down on your carbon footprint, your freight cost, et cetera. But I think it's those relationships are, lead time, but you can't beat those relationships. And we've always tried to keep it made here in the USA as much as we can. That kind of came from being younger also. I remember back when importing started to become big. So this is a long time ago. And residential furniture was shipping to China, like Jen said. And Thomasville Furniture, of course, everybody knows T-ville, but they were shutting down their plants just systematically, one after another. I mean, it was 600 people to pop every time they shut down one of those plants. And after shutting down one of them, Dad and I we were trying to decide, talking about what to do. And like I said, I was in purchasing at the time, and we were kind of walking up the hill, and the HR person was coming down and was just like, Randy, you're not going to believe it. And we got up the hill, literally the line to apply for a job was coming out our building and heading up the street because Thomasville had shut down one of their plants. And I remember it really struck Dad and me pretty hard. And we both I remember he looked over at me and just said, we're going to do everything we can to keep it all here and help the local companies and try to keep it. Never really got into the import game. Never did.
That's awesome, Jeff. And, the statistic that you talked about in our prep call, but is worthy of mentioning is 75% of your raw materials come from within 75 miles of your current factory. And you just talked about that and the importance of that and being able to reach out and touch those suppliers and to go have a cup of coffee with them, to go see the product being made. Because I think a lot of people have a misconception that when you're a furniture manufacturer, that you manufacture everything, and you don't manufacture every component and every part and piece. There's strategic outsourcing that is required. And you guys made the decision to keep that strategic outsourcing here in the United States as much as possible within 75 miles of where you are, to keep all of those businesses working and those companies and those small businesses continuing to run and be profitable and have people employed. And in a small community like High Point, North Carolina, I think that's pretty fantastic. And in our industry that is prone to going abroad for products and for manufacturing, it also says a lot about your commitment, not only to your company, to your people, to the quality of your products, but also to your customers and to the country as a whole and to manufacturing in the US. So congrats to you guys. That's awesome. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So what do you think have been some of the challenges that you faced in the most recent years? I mean, let's be clear. The world in the last 12 months has not been what any one of us had anticipated or expected. And, the experts say that the first 2 quarters of this year are going to be a little challenging as well, and that we should start to see some recovery, but slow in the third and fourth quarter of 21. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you're currently facing and what you're doing to overcome them.
Well, first of all, Jeff is definitely used to traveling and not having to do Zoom conversations as far as sales go. That's probably one of the most challenging for him. As far as the business goes, you really don't know what to expect kind of, day to day as far as with people getting sick. I mean, we've been lucky so far. We haven't had any employees to get the COVID. So we haven't,
that's great.
Knock on some wood. Got plenty of wood around, but
I'm knocking on wood as she's talking. I'm knocking on that wood right now.
but I mean, you don't know. We've known and been in contact with a lot of businesses that have had to shut down for a couple
Sure.
weeks and have multiple people out. So that's definitely a challenge. The way that we've been marketing, introducing the big product that we did this year. It was a challenge not having a neocon to go to and to be able to, showcase that new product. So we're trying to get, how do we get the samples out to market quickly and get people into showrooms? I mean, are they going to be willing to come to showrooms?
Yep.
So, that's a lot of the challenges right now that we're facing. I mean, luckily, we've had good supply, from our suppliers, that are local, that are around here. We haven't had any issues with any of that.
So Jennifer, I want to go back to the very first thing you said about a challenge with Jeff being having to do Zoom calls and not being traveling out in the field. So I want to know, what's the real challenge there? Is the challenge that Jeff's actually in the office and being visible, or is it that he's just not out driving business? I mean, what's the real challenge there?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess prior to now, I would always tell him, you don't belong in here. You need to get out. Go still. But it's been good. I mean, definitely with the new products and marketing and us being able to collaborate a lot more. But I mean, his door is shut most of the time. He's been doing so many Zooms that I don't see how he does it.
Jeff's shaking his head for those. Who
Yeah, when those dealers and designers tell when you hear that they're zoomed out, I'm sitting here going, "You're zoomed out." Imagine how many I do in a day. But it is a challenge. I mean, because coming from your background, Sid, I mean, you kind of understand it too. I mean, there's something, a Zoom call. I mean, it's a patch through, yes, but you can't see your audience. You can't, you can't really interact with your audience, and that's such a big part of selling. When especially what we're doing and what we're pitching. I mean, it's. We are family business. We're a small family business. You're technically a small business classification, but you're, as my dad always said, what's something you got to romance. You got to romance the story of it. You got to, and that's difficult to do from a Zoom call because to me, they're just not personal at all. And I don't think people can see your passion for the product and things that you like. I mean, it has definitely presented its challenges. I mean, pandemic wise, this has, but at least we do have this patch too. I'm just ready to get out. I mean, since I have been home, I did discover I have a wife and 2 kids. That was amazing. I don't know where they came from, but generally, I mean, you're talking to somebody who's normally gone 3 weeks a month.
So it's funny when I quit traveling, because I used to be very much the way you were. I was a road warrior. I tell people jokingly, I was on the road 7 days a week, 5 weeks a month. And it's a challenge to do that. And so after I started my business and I was home for a couple of weeks, my wife lovingly, in her special way, looked over at me and said, "When are you leaving again?" Like, you have totally disrupted our life. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of rude. I mean, I've been, I'm glad to be home. And she wants to know when I'm leaving again. So I get the shift, right? Because it is a change when you have been out traveling and now you have to figure out a new way to work and a new way to reach your customers in an environment that you're not necessarily in all the time. So, and you're not alone with that. I mean, every person in our industry has faced a challenge like that of how do we reach our customer? How do we get there? How do we be different? And how do we be unique? But during all these challenges, you guys had some pretty cool things happen, right? And so first, let me congratulate you. You recently won an Interior Design Best of the Year award for your screens. So tell us about the new screens. I know you guys listening, can't see the screen. We'll drop a link in the show notes to go check out the screens, but these are pretty cool screens. So tell us about that and how it came about.
Well, it was kind of and I'll let Jen take it because she was a little bit more involved in the front part of this, but it's everybody was introducing some sort of screen product. I mean, it's been the year of the screen. Let's just be honest. If you're a plexiglass manufacturer, you had a phenomenal year. Yep. But for us, marketing ended up seeing these particular screens in a publication and presented them to Jen and me, and we're just like, what do y'all think about contacting this group called Dutch and Virtuals, who are the designers of the product, and seeing if they would be interested in licensing that product for basically manufacture and sell here in the U.S. And Jen and Cassie basically reached out to them, and everything came together. And so it's just kind of phenomenal because it's a screen product that I don't think customers are going to have buyer's remorse. I think we're going to have a lot of that down the road. Yeah. Where customers are looking around and they're looking at their offices going, man, we got to get rid of all this stuff. It's just stuff that's going to remind you of the pandemic, something that's going to, just bring it up constantly. And this is a screen program that doesn't do that. I think it's something to where somebody will not have buyer's remorse because it was designed more for visual privacy and room division in an open office versus being a sneeze guard, as everybody calls them these days. But yeah. Jen, you could maybe talk a little bit more to the experience of how this came about.
Yeah, so we reached out to Dutch and Virtuals. I mean, they're a fun group, more kind of like a art gallery, I guess, where they have, a lot of fun designs. They've just kind of gotten into more product designs. But if you check out their website, I mean, it's really, really kind of a fun group. So I'm not surprised that they created such a fun product. But Jeff's right. I mean, it's not something that, screams of COVID and the pandemic. It really has a lot of design features to it and a lot of color. And it's really an exciting product for something so simple that looks so simple.
Well, we'll drop a link in the show notes.
Fun shapes, fun colors.
Yeah, go check it out. But Jeff, something that you said a minute ago, if you're a plexiglass manufacturer, you had a banner year. There's no doubt, right? Sneeze guards are everywhere. And, there's so many people offering plexiglass screens right now, and there are a lot of companies buying them, and I understand the need for them and creating a safe environment and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to talk about all of that. But the question that I have about that is what happens, Jeff, as you just said, when they're tired of them and they need to get rid of them? You know, my guess is they're not going to be recycled, right? They're not going to be reused, and it becomes a sustainability issue. And our industry is challenged a lot with sustainability and challenges around sustainability and how can we become more sustainable. Though it was a necessary product, we just put millions of pieces of product into the marketplace that likely are going to go straight to a landfill and not be appropriately recycled. So, you know, it's got its own separate challenge, and we don't have to talk about that, but I think
absolutely,
you know, it's important. And I think we need to think about that. And I love that your approach, that it does what's needed, but it's more permanent and not more temporary. It's got a great look to it. It's fun, it's colorful, and go back to those 2017 roots, if you will, of European design coming into the US at an affordable price. So that's pretty cool. And then to top that off, you had another product that you launched that also got quite a bit of recognition in the marketplace as well. And that's called Honey. So tell us a little bit about that process of how you got that product from where it is to today, because though I don't think you intentionally, well, you didn't start the design of it thinking it was going to be a great solution for the workplace of the future, but it sure is a great solution for the workplace of the future.
Yeah. Well,
this one. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Go ahead.
Well, it is fortunate. It is a stroke of luck on this particular product. I mean, it was basically a 2-year project. Began in 2018 by 2 designers, Mark Mueller, Chris Wright, and we were already engaged with Mark on a case good collection. So they showed it to us beginning their concepts to the beginning of 2019. And we took a look at them, and we're a little skeptical at first. I mean, it was a trend we were seeing over in Europe, but it was different. It was something very, I mean, here in the U.S., it was benching. I mean, that was it. And this product was definitely not benching. So it was something that we were a little hesitant on what its success would be. But then we started to do these focus groups. And Jen, you can, if you want to comment on that a little bit and what we did on that end.
Sure. So the product started out as kind of an alternative, not an alternative, but in addition to benching. Kind of what they saw was basically currently about 30% of the office space is kind of a mixture and open collaborative, kind of go to, concentration zones, I guess you should say, or meeting rooms. And they saw in the future that's going to probably be more like 70%. So that was kind of how they started the whole concept. But when we started doing our focus groups, which I think met with over 50 designers throughout the country to get their feedback on the product, they said, no, this isn't this isn't in addition to, this is the product. You need to make it the product, make it the solution. They saw it as the primary work surface, not an alternative to go to. And also kind of where we started with the product was it being just a static. So it'd be either seated or standing. And they were like, no, you got to have height adjustable. Everybody wants height adjustable. So, I mean, this product really went through so many changes thanks to the feedback of all the designers. So, I mean, that's been so crucial to our development.
So what I love is it started out with a design partnership that you already had, that then we're going to Europe to look at some trends over there, came in with something new. Then you surveyed our community and you reached out and did focus groups to get feedback. And they gave you really, really good feedback that then led to where the product is today, that it's really cool. It's got lots of features and benefits that I think are really needed. We're going to drop a link to the information on their website about it. Now, you've officially launched it. So how's it doing out of the gate? I mean, it's got to be scary launching a new product. It's something especially as big as that takes 2 years to actually get done. So how's the market received it?
It's been received really well. I mean, obviously we were super excited to show this product at NeoCon.
Sure.
So in NeoCon, and for a small company like us, a show a show like that is, when you're not one of the big box brands, I mean, Steelcase, Herman Miller, obviously, the big four, then a lot, being able to showcase it at a show like that allows so many other people to see it. So it really helps you from a marketing standpoint. So it was kind of disappointing when we couldn't do that. So that made launching it a little bit more difficult. But we have, we've splashed it. It's been in some publications. Obviously we're doing most of my Zoom calls are on honey. It's introducing it to the people, and it's been received really well. We've been, in fact, we're already receiving orders on it. We already have it on out there on quite a few projects. I mean, it's still the pandemic right now. I mean, a lot of people are still working from home, so but people are looking to what that post-COVID workplace is going to be. And in fact, we have probably going to be getting a showroom order here pretty soon from a dealer that has actually put together a kind of post-COVID workplace. They've kind of redone their showroom to be kind of what the post-COVID workplace is they're envisioning it to be like. And they're actually they're going to put a 3-pack of honey on the floor. So people are looking at it to be that solution when we return to work. So yeah, it's been received really well. And especially when you do 40 to 50 focus groups with designers, you already know they're going to like it before you show it to them. So it helps. It helps. Takes a little bit of that guesswork out of it,
Well, congratulations to both of you on having an amazing, and to your whole organization having a great, very successful year in the midst of everything that's going on. 2 product launches, both well received, I think is something to be really proud of. Keeping your manufacturing in the US and supporting other small businesses. I mean, there's a checklist here of a lot of things to be really proud of. And it's been a pleasure to have you guys on today. But I have one last question. Okay. Watching the two of you, because I can see them, watching the two of you and the interaction between the two of you, your workplace must be a lot of fun. So I want to know what it's like to be the dynamic brother-sister duo leading a small business. What's it like?
Oh, Lord.
Jeff, if you say anything, go ahead. I was going to say, if you say anything inappropriate, Jeff, we can edit it out. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
A lot of people have asked, how does that work as kind of the brother sister? I mean, did y'all fight growing up? Like, do you agree on things now? And what I tell everybody is, I mean, we're completely different. He is a sales guy through and through. He loves to talk. And I'm geared very differently. So our strengths are our strengths. But we have a lot of fun, and we get along great because we respect each other and what we're good at. And we know that the other one can't do what the other one does,
That's great.
So it works out really good.
That's great.
Jeff? It's a good balance, kind of what Jen's saying. It's a good balance between us, and yeah, we've never really fought. And I mean, if we were similar, this would never work. If our personalities were the same, this right here would never work. So our ability to balance each other out, and one person's strengths is the other person's weaknesses, as Jen said. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't think many brother and sisters could do this. But I think it does create a little bit of a fun. I mean, I'm guessing everybody doesn't think that it enjoys working here, or they fake it. Fake it till you make it, I guess. But yeah, it's a good, it's a fun dynamic. I mean, she's my younger sister, so I do work for my younger sister. That's even more interesting. Just kidding.
All I'm going to say is your dad
yeah, I think that's what it is. Well, he used reverse psychology on us. He told both of us not to go into the business, go do something else. And I think it was 100% pure reverse psychology. But the thing I think for both of it is when you, with that, I mean, I went to college with a lot of kids who had family businesses, and it was the last thing that they wanted to go into. And I think that's always a challenge when you can't force the younger generation to go into the business. They have to want to go into it. They have to have a passion for it. That's why Dad used to always say the passion. You have to have a passion for the business and love of the people, and your employees. And that's what I think kind of sold both of us, is working here when we were younger, obviously during summers when we weren't in school, and then coming here to work right after school. There tends to be a lot of tenure in furniture companies, and sometimes that even goes generations of people, where dads work here and then sons work here, and you develop these relationships with the people, and that's really, you fall in love with it. And then after that, there's nothing else you'd rather do. And that's kind of, I think, maybe somewhat sums it up a little bit.
So I will say that I'm probably not the only person that knows who you guys are. And there are a lot of people out there that are thankful that both of you decided to stay in the business and to take your company from where it was to where it is today. And I'm excited to watch where you're headed. Lots of new stuff happening, and I'm excited for you guys. And thank you again for being here with me and for sharing a little bit about your organization with our listeners. And I hope you guys have a great 2021.
Thank you, Sid.
Thank you,
too.
Sid. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You too.